Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Kofi Kingston is gone from the WWE. Man, my jaw dropped when I heard that. But honestly, I could kind of see it coming because I figured they weren't just gonna release him. I kind of figured the dude might have been done with the WWE. And that's kind of, pretty much what happened. Like, it was a mutual thing. They wanted to release him and Xavier Wood. I have no idea who Xavier Wood is. He came in during the time I stopped watching wrestling. But Kofi Kingston was there when I was still watching back in the day. The man's been in the company for like 18 years and stuff. And I still remember when the dude, came in with his, Jamaican reggae, persona and stuff like that. Even though he's not Jamaican, I think he's from Ghana, I believe. And, I'm not shocked he wanted to be released because that company did not deserve this man. Like, seriously, they didn't. And the thing is, they've kept this man stuck in the middle of this company for nearly pretty much his entire career and everything. I'm about to say probably like a decade and a half, but yeah, pretty much. I mean, don't get me wrong. The man is accomplished. The man's a multiple Intercontinental champion, a multiple, U.S. champion. He's won multiple different tag belts in the company, from NXT to the World tag belts to the Undisputed tag belts. You know what I'm saying? He's a Grand Slam champion, and he's won the WWE title. Problem is, he only won the WWE title one time, and the way he lost it was just straight up embarrassing and everything. And the moment he lost that belt to Lesnar, he should have left that company then and there. He really should have. The thing about Kofi Kingston is that the man had it all. He had charisma. He had the look. He had the skills. He had the mic skills and everything. My bad, the cough. He's had multiple championships. Like, the dude's wall in his place is probably stacked, with belts left and right and everything. That's how many championships this man had won. And he should have been a heck of a lot bigger than what he was. He should have been headlining WrestleMania. He should have been multiple WWE champions and stuff. Multiple world heavyweight champions. But for whatever reason, Vince and Triple H kept that man stuck in the mid-card section. And then when they was done keeping him in the mid, they decided to keep him in a fraction and keep him in the tag division. And we all know both Vince and Triple H don't really care for the tag division. That lets you know right there, they did not care for him. And I remember hearing about him being WWE champion. That was a time I wasn't watching back in 2019. And when I heard he lost the belt in 9 seconds, I was furious. And when he lost it to Brock Lesnar, everybody's golden boy who they love so much, but all because of his look and presence and stuff, but his disgusting behavior is truly disgusting. I was furious. I was mad. And I knew it. I knew they was done with this dude, but they kept him around because it would have looked bad for the company. The thing about Kofi is that he is a team player. You tell him to go do something, he goes out and do it. You tell him to be in this fraction, he'll go be in this fraction. You want him to tag with this person, he'll tag with that person. You know what I'm saying? He is that trooper when it comes to being a WWE superstar and everything. But they never wanted to put the belt on him after those 9 seconds when he lost the belt. And honestly, they probably never wanted to put the belt on him ever again. Because we all know how Vince is. I mean, it took a long time for them to have a black WWE champion. And between those times, it took nearly a decade after the last black WWE champion. Because Booker T never won a WWE belt. He was always the heavyweight champ. And we know Vince don't care about the heavyweight title. He just don't. He cares about the one that has the name of WWE on there. And, you know, so The Rock, he was half black and won the belt. Booker T, I'll count the heavyweight one and everything. But then I think it took like a whole decade just for them to have another black man hold that title. Because there aren't that many people of color who held the belt for over 10 years after, like, you know, that first undisputed round with The Rock and Lesnar and all them and stuff like that. And I think Eddie was probably the last person of color to hold the belt for like a whole decade, I believe. I remember I researched this years ago, and I was shocked to find out they didn't have that many people of color as champ. And this was like years ago, right? And so, like, that's just a belt Vince don't like putting on like people of color and everything. And Kofi fell into that same trap that R-Truth has fallen into, to where it's like he's won multiple titles, you know, US, I don't know if he ever won the IC belt, but US he has tag belts, but Vince can never see R-Truth as anything more than a mid-carder and everything, mainly because, you know, probably the color of his skin and also his body shape. But what happened to R-Truth when he went to TNA? He proved himself, becoming the very first black NWA champion. And I think still to this day, the only one. He proved he has the presence. He proved he has like what it takes to be a world heavyweight champion. But then once he went back to WWE, Vince kept him in the mid-card section, then the tag section, and then the 24/7 title reign, because Vince just likes goofing around and Vince just like laughing at R-Truth and everything. And R-Truth is paid very well. Same thing with Kofi Kingston. You know, there was probably a deal made like, hey, we ain't putting the belt on you, but we'll give you a 7-figure deal and everything, you know? And it kept him cushy for a while. But here's the thing. Money isn't always everything. Prestige, you know, a namesake, recognition, that means something to people. Because most people don't even bring his name up anymore. You know, most people don't even think of him as world champion material. Word is AEW wants him, and we already know what's going to happen when he's in AEW. Tony Khan's not going to put the belt on him. Tony Khan has only had one black heavyweight champion, and that's it. And I'm surprised he only had one. And it took this many years just for him to put that belt on a black person. Tony Khan keeps black people and people of color in the midsection and in the tag division. The TBS champion, that's a person of color belt. Don't even call it a mid-card belt. That belt gets passed around to people of color and everything. And it's kind of the same way with the women's heavyweight title over there. How many people of color have you really seen with that belt? Not that many and everything, you know? And of course, once he goes to AEW, they're going to put him back in the tag division if he goes with somebody else. If Xavier Wood goes with him, he'll be right back in the tag division. He'll win the tag belts, or they'll put him with the Hurt Syndicate and everything because there's a black fraction and everything. And, you know, if he ventures all by himself and not with Xavier Wood and nobody else, I don't know if any other company is really going to put the belt on him. Maybe TNA will. Maybe. But the problem is, since the dude has been mid-card and tagging for like the longest time in his career, a lot of people really aren't going to see him as anything else, really, you know? Unless they wise up. Sometimes TNA will wise up and everything. They do tend to put their belts on like people of color. You know, Naomi, what's his name? Bobby Lashley and everything. I mean, it took a while. And Booker T never won the big belt over there. But they did create a belt for him and made it the mid-card belt. So at least they did that. But he went over in a time when they had Kurt Angle, Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. So they never were going to put that belt on him. But at least they did make him his very own belt and made it a mid-card belt and everything. But still, they never put that belt on him, and they really should have. But he was coming off his WWE King persona, so he should have rebranded himself instead of sticking with what worked in WWE. And, Kofi Kingston, he's going to have to rebrand himself. Don't go back to that Jamaican thing because, one, he's not Jamaican, and two, that's what people has forgotten about back in the day, and he doesn't even speak with that fake accent no more. I don't want to see him in the tag division, and I certainly don't want to see that man in, the mid-card section. But just like the title of this video says, him asking for his release is really a blessing in disguise. WWE was not going to do nothing with this man anymore. That's why they kept him stuck in the tag division and everything. And he should never have been there that long. He should have been gunning for that world title. And we all know why Vince gave him that belt. It was 2019. That was doing Black Lives Matter, woke culture, giving people who don't get opportunities and finally giving them an opportunity and everything. We know why Vince started giving black people like Bobby Lashley that belt around that time and stuff. And to squash Kofi in 9 seconds by Brock Lesnar, the black man squasher and everything, all because they wanted Brock to look like an intimidating force coming back and everything. That was just low down. And they never gave that belt back to Kofi after that. And, seriously, if he would have stayed there, he still would have been tagging. He still would have, gotten tag belts, and that's it. Because look at Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio has been there since, I was watching wrestling back in the earlier days and stuff. When I was in, my early 20s and everything. That was over 20-something years ago. And Rey Mysterio hasn't been World Heavyweight Champion that long. Just like Kofi and everything. And not only that, but the last belt he gunned for was the IC belt. Why? That man's a legend. And they got him wrestling for the IC belt at WrestleMania. That tells you right there, they could care less. But they get paid a lot. That's the thing about WWE. They pay good money. Look at Natalya. They not putting no belt on her no time. So I don't know what the heck she's doing right now. She had this whole ruthless MMA type thing, and which was weird. I never liked that, and now she's kind of just disappeared again. But you know what? I truly believe WWE was tired of Kofi when this happened in 2010. The whole stupid thing from Randy Orton. Because Vince listens to Randy. And Randy has a problem with you. If you botch a move with him and he's whining and crying and complaining, Vince listens to this man. And Mr. Kennedy, he suffered because of that. One botch, one complaint, brought in John Cena with some more complaining, and that was it for that man. Now, Kofi, on the other hand, they kept him. I think Vince would have known that if he would have, released that man, black fans would have been in a frenzy. They would have been complaining. They would have been pissed. Black Twitter would have lit up and everything. So I think that's one main reason why Vince never got rid of him. Plus, the man is that good of a wrestler. He's very agile. He's very athletic, very acrobatic and everything. And so they knew they could still make money off this dude. And you know, and so they kept him around and everything. But then they kept him around to pretty much just like be stuck. And that's it. And I truly do believe that did kill his momentum. And they put that belt on him only because it was Black Lives Matter. And they felt like maybe he deserved it, but they weren't going to let him keep it that long. Similar to Christian and everything. Christian should have been a world champ, but Vince just did not like him. And, he didn't like the way the man looked. And Vince don't like putting belts on people of color because he knows the majority of his fans are white and white conservatives at that. And so, and Kofu is about as dark as they get. Plus, Kofu ain't got those big bulging muscles like, Brock or Bobby or Triple H or, people of the past and stuff like that. But for him to only be a one-time world champion in WWE, that's shameful and everything. Like that's just wrong. And Kofu didn't want to be stuck like Sheamus and everything. Sheamus is stuck. Sheamus should not be going for IC belts or fading away in the background. And everything. Like he shouldn't. So hopefully this, like I said before, this is a blessing in disguise. This man can go other places. He can win more titles and everything. He can build his name back up. He can rebrand himself, and he can show these other companies that he deserves to be a world champ. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.